Here are all the books that I read in August. Hi friends, welcome back to Pages and Chaos, and I'm going to go through with you all the books that I read in August, including the ones that I read for the first 2 weeks during Ketchup-a-thon, and if I was able to build a full cookout. So first I'm going to start off with the books that were not part of Ketchup-a-thon. I read the third book in the Seaside Cafe mystery series that I've been reading as Buddy reads in the Comfy Cozy Book Club, and that is Tide and Punishment, and I gave this 4 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I mean, these books just keep getting better and better, and the tension between Everly and Grady just keeps growing, and I'm here for it. Next was the book that I finished most recently, and that was Tress of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This was my very first Brandon Sanderson, and everyone has told me that if you're going to start with a Brandon Sanderson book, that this is one to get you started with. It's a standalone, even though it's part of a world that he has already built and has other stories in, and I gave this 5 stars. I went through this so quickly. I enjoyed this so much. I loved the fantasy aspect of it, and also the fact that, yes, while she's on this journey to save this guy that she loves, it's not the only major plot point of this story. I mean, you've got pirates, you've got magic, you've got a love story, you've got a talking rat. I mean, this book has just have everything. It made me laugh. There were points in this book that, like, the sayings and the paragraphs kind of were like, huh, like, that's interesting, and I just loved it. Like, if I was somebody who annotated books, I probably would have tabbed and annotated this book to death, because that's how much I loved it. I might, like, go back and do a little, like, reread and just tab some of my favorite lines of this book. So this was definitely a 5-star read. So the next books that I have here are the books that I read for Ketchup-a-thon, which was the first 2 weeks of August, and the goal was to catch up on your TBR from your books of the month, or if you're not a book of the month subscriber, you could have used any TBR, but of course I have so many unread book of the month books, so I was able to use that, and we had to build a cookout with our TBR. So first, we'll go over the books and their ratings, and then we'll see what my cookout was and if I was able to build a full cookout. So first up was The Four Winds by Kristen Hanna, and I gave this 4 stars. This was heart-wrenching, just like The Nightingale, rips your heart out. I mean, Kristen Hanna obviously has a way of doing that. So this takes place during the Great Depression, and this family has to decide whether or not they're going to leave their place in Texas during the Dust Bowl and make their way out in California, like many families have. They call them the Okies. But like I said, this just completely destroyed me. The next book that I read for Ketchup-a-thon was Arsenic and Adobo, and this is a cozy mystery. This was the first in the Tita Rosie's Kitchen mystery, and I probably would pick up another one from this series for sure, and I enjoyed this. This was a 4-star. It was a quick read. I always love a good cozy mystery. So of course this is about this amateur sleuth, Lila, who has to figure out, or wants to figure out, who commits the murder in her small town. And of course she is a suspect, which always seems to be the case in the first books of these cozy mystery series, but I'm here for it and I love it. Next up was The Paris Hours by Alex George, and I gave this 3 stars. It was a quick read, not as enjoyable as I thought. I mean, I liked it. 3 stars is still, I like the book. And I feel like I wanted a little bit more with the ending. So this is a book that takes place in 1927, and it takes place over the course of one night. And by the end, you figure out how these 4 different characters are all connected. And I felt like some of them were cool and made sense, and then others I kind of feel like, it just, I don't know, it didn't do everything for me that I expected to. So just some of the people that are in the book. So Josephine Baker, Ernest Hemingway, and then you have a lonely piano player. Then you have this host of these legendary saloons, and this lovesick painter. So you have all these people, and by the end you have to figure out, or they tell you how everyone is connected, and it just wasn't as big of a wow factor for me as I thought. So while I enjoyed this, I think this is going to be a book that I unhaul from my shelves now that I've read. Next up is Divine Rivals, which is the first in the series, and I absolutely love this. I gave this 4 stars. So this is about Iris, who is a writer, and she winds up becoming a writer for the war that's happening between the gods. And she has to navigate that while also dealing with her rival, who shows up on the scene, and the two of them basically have been at each other's throats and rivals through the last newspaper company that they were writing for, and so she has to come to terms with that. And of course, Divine Rivals is a duology, so there is a second book, which I am excited to pick up, Ruthless Vows, which I already have, and I plan on picking that up for September, for series September. The last book that I attempted for Ketchup-a-thon was Manhattan Beach by Jennifer Egan. And unfortunately, I DNF'd this one. There were just too many different storylines that felt like I was reading like 3 different books. Maybe if I kept going, it would have come together a little bit more, but it just wasn't really for me. It had a great premise. And I really thought I was going to like this because it takes place in Manhattan and Brooklyn and basically New York City during World War II. It's about a woman who becomes the first diver to fix the submarines and the ships and things like that have to go out for the war, while she's also trying to solve the mystery of what happened to her father. But then there's also a mob boss storyline, which they think is the connection between her father's disappearance, and but it was just like, I don't know, I just felt like I was reading too many different storylines that didn't match up. So unfortunately, this was a DNF for me, and of course I am going to unhaul this one as well because I'm not going to keep something that I did not enjoy. So now to see how much of the cookout I was able to build. So first up was the location, and I think, let's see. So actually, I have a couple of different things. So the Paris Hours was set in a different country, so I was able to have my cookout at the beach. Guests was either family, friends, which is found family, or the neighbors, which is the neighborhood. And I think I had all 3 invited because I have family here. This is taking place in a small town, and it's got all the family and friends as well as neighbors. So this will cover both found family for friends and also neighbors for the neighborhood. My meat, so there was steak, burgers and dogs, and shish kebabs. And this is a mystery, a cozy mystery, so this takes care of my shish kebabs. I also have a historical fiction in the 4 Winds, so that was my burgers and dogs. And then my sides. So I have a colorful cover in Arsenic and Adobo. So that was a fruit salad. I already said that I had my shortest book with the Paris Hours. So those are my chips. Multiple points of view. I didn't have a pasta salad. And then food on the cover. Arsenic and Adobo again. So that was my veggie platter. And I think that is it for my sides. And then last up was the dessert. So something that really didn't fit anywhere else, and that was my fantasy, and that was Divine Rivals. So that was my cookout. So I had a bunch of sides, and I had 2 different meats. I had a whole bunch of guests at my cookout. As far as the games, I believe I got to play bocce ball because I participated in reading sprints. I read outside, and I think that's it. I don't think I really reviewed, well, I reviewed the book of the month on my Goodreads. So yeah, so volleyball, 3 activities. And that's what I read in August for Ketchup-a-thon, and then the 2 books that I was able to finish out the month with. So have you read any of these books? Did you give them the same ratings as I did? Did you enjoy them? Tell me what you think down below. That's all I have for now. Bye.